Revenge with Karen.
My nephew is more qualified than you. See his Harvard MBA, he said and laughed. Not a chuckle, a laugh. Loud enough that the two junior analysts at the end of the glass table flinched and started pretending they had something urgent in Outlook. I sat across from him, half a cup of stale Keurig coffee in my hand, and 3 bites into what used to be a decent Tuesday. And just like that, the entire room smelled like arrogance and Axe body spray. Did you a favor hiring you 5 years ago? No degree, no pedigree, he added, leaning back like he'd just won a courtroom drama. His tie still had the Nordstrom security tag on it. I counted to 3 in my head, the same way I did when my niece started throwing tantrums in Target. I didn't argue. I didn't remind him that while his nephew was off Instagramming lattes in Cambridge, was the one flying to Dallas in the middle of a thunderstorm to save the McAllister account. Or that when the Trident merger almost fell apart over a handshake clause, it was me in the hotel bar at 11:43 p.m. smoothing egos and ordering club sodas with lime. I didn't bring up the Saturdays, the Sundays, the nights my apartment felt like a ghost town because I lived in this damn office. Instead, I smiled, took a breath. Well, I said, voice like syrup. Congratulations to him. Then I slid my access badge across the table like a poker chip, stood up and walked out. No dramatic speeches, no stomping, just the click of my heels and the soft thunk of that badge hitting fake wood. That was the moment the glass room turned into a snow globe of stunned silence. No one moved, no one followed. I didn't need them to. Oh, and before I forget, if you're listening and enjoying this story, do us a solid. Hit the like button, maybe even subscribe. 95% of folks don't, and trust me, it keeps this story engine running. It takes 2 seconds and tells our team you're out there rooting for karma to do its thing. Anyway, I got in the elevator, pressed L for lobby, and as those mirrored doors slid shut, I caught one last look at the new VP's face, still smug, still stupid, already moving on like he'd just solved a crossword puzzle. Poor guy. He thought clients cared about pedigree. He thought relationships came in diplomas. What he didn't know was this: I wasn't just the client relations manager. I was the relationship. I was the reason Kevin from Keystone didn't jump ship last year. I was the one Laura from Silverbrook called when her CEO got caught with 2 cell phones and 1 mistress in an Atlantic City hotel. I was the fixer, the ghost, one who kept the ship from tilting while boys in suits held the wheel and pretended to steer. So I walked out. No LinkedIn update. No farewell speech with a cupcake tower. I didn't box my things, I didn't have to. The things that mattered weren't in drawers. They were in call logs, text threads, memories that weren't on paper but lived in the heads of the people who trusted me. People I'd never once failed. The firm didn't send an email. No internal memo. We wish her well in future endeavors. Just silence. Like maybe, if they ignored the absence, it wouldn't echo. But it did. And while I didn't know what came next, I wasn't sitting still. I had a different kind of MBA, one earned in airports, sidebars, and last-minute pitch decks pulled from the jaws of failure. I just needed 72 hours. Let's see how long it took them to miss me. 3 hours after I walked out, my work inbox was deactivated. No, because I checked. Not because I planned to use it, I'm not that sentimental, but because I wanted to see how fast the erasure would begin. The answer? Very. No out-of-office reply, no handoff note, just poof, like I never existed. They didn't even bother to send a goodbye email to clients. No Jessica's moved on to new opportunities. No interim contact is nothing. The VP must have figured if I was replaceable, I was forgettable. His nephew was already measuring the office blinds and ordering business cards with gold foil. LinkedIn probably still had me listed as current employee, but the firm had already started rewriting history. Meanwhile, I sat in a coffee shop 4 blocks away, nursing a large iced Americano and reading a dog-eared paperback like I didn't just eject myself from a 6-figure job without a parachute. The quiet was loud, but not lonely. I wasn't sad. I wasn't scared. I was suspended in that eerie calm that hits right after a tornado rips through and the wind forgets how to howl. No texts, no calls, not from coworkers at least. I figured the junior staffers were too scared to reach out, or maybe they thought I'd committed some kind of career suicide and didn't want to catch the same infection. Corporate cowardice is contagious like that. But at 5:42 p.m., my personal phone buzzed. Hey stranger, message read, coffee sometime, just happened to be in the area. The name lit up like a familiar melody, Harold C. from Crosswell, former client, not small potatoes. We hadn't worked together in over a year, but I'd once helped him navigate a client merger disaster involving 2 egomaniac CEOs, 3 NDAs, and 1 very unfortunate golf cart crash. We'd stayed friendly. But this wasn't just a social call. I replied, tomorrow. 11. Same place, wouldn't miss it. I didn't tell anyone, didn't post anything, still no LinkedIn update. Let them think I was sulking in my apartment, binge-watching house renovation shows and applying for jobs I didn't want. Let them believe I was licking wounds. The VP's fatal flaw wasn't just arrogance, it was assuming silence meant surrender. I used the evening to make a few lists. People I'd worked with, people who mattered. I still had phone numbers. I still had trust. The kind of trust that doesn't vanish when your badge does. My rage hadn't cooled, it just crystallized. I wasn't going to make noise. I wasn't going to rant online. I was going to let their ignorance build them a coffin. 1 email thread at a time. 1 missed client at a time. At 11 o'clock sharp the next day, Harold walked in wearing the same plaid jacket he'd had since 04 and sat across from me like we were old war buddies. Didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. Instead, he asked, "You got anything lined up?" I sipped my coffee. "I've got time." "Why?" He grinned, "Because Crosswell's looking, and we're tired of the musical chairs." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew that if I said yes, half the work would already be done. When he left, he slid his card across the table. "Don't wait too long. These idiots won't know what hit them till their biggest accounts stop picking up." I slipped the card into my bag. Didn't rush, didn't gloat. That night, I deleted all company contacts from my phone, not because I was cutting ties, but because I knew I wouldn't need to reach out. They'd come looking for me. They just didn't know it yet. On Thursday morning, the firm sent out a chirpy little email with the subject line, "Exciting new faces on the client relations team." I got a screenshot from a friend in accounting. Featured a headshot of a painfully symmetrical 20-something in a navy suit standing stiff as a broomstick, arms crossed like he was prepping for a stock photo shoot, titled Future Leader. Below the image, in bold, Tyler Brennan, MBA Harvard University, class of 2023. No mention of who he was replacing. No nod to the person who built the damn client playbook he was now holding upside down. Just glowing nonsense about synergistic transformation and data-informed empathy. I almost choked on my toast. Tyler, the nephew, they'd handed over 5 years of blood, fire drills, and relationship triage to a guy whose most traumatic experience was probably when his DoorDash forgot the extra aioli. His first client call was that afternoon, with the Wincroft Group. I knew because 2 hours later, I got a text from someone on their team. "Did you leave?" I stared at the screen. I didn't answer. 15 minutes later, another ping. "Was on a call with your replacement." He called us Winford, twice. Also asked if we used Slack like Gen Z does. Everyone was silent. I put the phone face down. The truth was, I had the urge to respond. Not because I missed the work, but because I hated watching the thing I built get butchered by a frat boy in a borrowed watch. But I didn't cave. Knew better than to interrupt the show when the villain was busy setting himself on fire. The next morning, I went for a long walk. No agenda, just movement. My phone stayed on silent, but the screen kept lighting up. A message from an old contact at Belmore, one from a private client who never went through the firm directly. Another one from Laura at Silverbrook, short, sharp. "Are you okay? Where are you?" I didn't answer. Not yet. I passed the building. Lobby windows were tinted, but I could see the silhouettes, blazers buzzing around like headless chickens. I recognized the hunch of shoulders, the quick, agitated pacing. I used to be the one they called when something didn't feel right, when a client got quiet, when a deal smelled off. Now they had Harvard. I walked past. Didn't break stride. By lunchtime, someone had posted a glowing LinkedIn update congratulating Tyler on joining an elite firm. Reposted it with a caption that read, "Let's disrupt client communication." I nearly threw my phone into the nearest fountain. But instead, I called my accountant, told him to proceed with the LLC paperwork. "Keep it clean," I said. "No name on it, just initials. JMC Group, no frills." He paused. "Consulting, among other things." That evening, I sat on my balcony, legs tucked under me, sipping a glass of wine. It had only been a few days. The air already felt different, like I'd stepped out of a stuffy elevator and into open air. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to make a scene. My silence was doing more damage than I ever could. Because while Tyler flailed through PowerPoint decks and mispronounced legacy client names, the people who mattered were already wondering where I'd gone. and soon they'd start asking why. By Monday morning, the cracks were no longer hairline. They were jagged, gaping, echoing all the way up the chain of command. It started with a quarterly strategy call with Haldon Klein, one of the firm's crown jewel clients. I'd onboarded them during a snowstorm and held their hand through 2 leadership shakeups and 1 shareholder lawsuit. They were loyal, but only because I made them feel bulletproof. Tyler was scheduled to lead the call. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was assuming Haldon Klein didn't notice who wasn't on the invite. The firm's Zoom room lit up on time, faces squared, folders open. On their side, Carl, the VP of Growth, and Marla, their COO, stone-cold professionals. Tyler opened with a line so forced it could have passed for AI-generated, excited to synergize touchpoints and elevate communication baselines. Carl blinked. Marla didn't move. "We'll wait," she said. Tyler fumbled. "Wait for who?" Marla adjusted her glasses. "Jessica," awkward silence. "She's no longer with us," Tyler said, forcing a smile so tight it looked painful. "But rest assured," click. Call dropped, cold, no warning, just gone. 15 seconds later, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code, Chicago. I let it buzz twice, then picked up, calm as ever. "Jessica speaking." There was a pause. Then Marla's voice, sharp and amused. "Really thought we wouldn't notice?" I chuckled, just enough to warm the edges. People assume a lot of things when they're new. "You free for coffee next week?" "Always." We locked in Thursday. Just a quiet little catch-up. Nothing official, nothing binding. But they'd already made up their minds, and not a single person at the firm had a clue it was happening. After I hung up, I stared at the skyline from my window. Somewhere in that tangle of glass and steel, VP was probably barking at his assistant to circle back with Haldon Klein, still convinced he could charm his way into their trust like this was a networking mixer. What he didn't understand, and would never understand, was that trust doesn't show up in a quarterly report. You don't win it with a certificate. You earn it in the weird hours. You build it when a client calls at 6:45 a.m. in a panic because a document hit the wrong inbox. And you say, "Me 10 minutes," and actually fix it before their second cup of coffee. Tyler had the haircut, he had the branding, but he didn't have the muscle memory of loyalty. And now, the silence was no longer mine, it was theirs. Later that night, I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Warm Leads. Inside, I dropped a spreadsheet with 3 tabs, 1 for current inquiries, 1 for previous clients, 1 for friendly fire, contacts inside the firm who might be ready to jump ship the moment I built a lifeboat. I didn't move fast. I didn't have to, because every call they fumbled, every meeting they mishandled, every delay, every missed nuance, every botched name, it was all steering people right back to me. And the best part, they were still too arrogant to see it. By Wednesday, the cracks in the firm's carefully polished exterior weren't just visible, they were hemorrhaging. Client after client began circling the same drain of concern, each using eerily similar phrasing. Inconsistencies in communication, gaps in follow-up, breakdowns in continuity. Translation: Tyler was screwing up. One client wrote in an email, which of course made its way to me via a former coworker. "We feel the current contact lacks the historical context and relationship depth we're used to. This has resulted in avoidable confusion and wasted time." Translation of the translation: where the hell is Jessica? Inside the firm, things were combusting. The VP, still peacocking through his title like it came with a halo, had hauled Tyler into a glass-walled conference room. The walls didn't insulate sound half as well as he thought. According to my source, shout out to Janine from compliance, who always owed me favors, the yelling got so intense someone turned on the Office Sonos system to mask it with a motivational playlist, corporate therapy via Top 40. Apparently, the VP screamed something like, "What do you mean you forgot to follow up with Keystone? That's a $4 million renewal." Tyler mumbled something about email drafts not syncing. Classic. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, I sat in the back corner of a small office suite inside a WeWork on 14th Street. Nothing flashy. No nameplate. Just me, my laptop, and the soft hum of freelancers pretending to be busy. The air smelled like burnt coffee and someone's overambitious cologne. It was perfect. I had just received final confirmation from my lawyer. The LLC was active. Name, JMC Group, LLC. Clean, quiet, legal. Just initials. Nothing to connect the dots unless you already knew where to look. My emotional state, cold steel. I had no time for nostalgia. Oh, time to wonder what the VP thought now that his golden boy was bleeding clients like a pinpricked balloon. I was focused, methodical, and as I stared down the contract in front of me, I felt the last ember of hesitation burn out. The client, Keystone Holdings. The same man, Ron Mayers, who once leaned over a bourbon at a conference dinner and told me I was great with people, but not strategic enough for real leadership. I'd smiled back then. My tongue took his notes, got him through 2 fiscal emergencies and a board audit without losing a single account. Now he was the one calling me. His message had been simple: heard you're available. We've got monthly work, flexible terms. Interested? I sent back a polished scope of work proposal with a fee that made my old salary look like a rounding error. He didn't even blink. Just replied, done. Send the contract. So I did. I signed my first monthly retainer that afternoon. I didn't print it, didn't frame it. Just watched the DocuSign confirmation roll in, then closed my laptop and exhaled for the first time in days. Not a sigh of relief, one of recognition. The turning point had arrived. Quiet, efficient, irreversible. By the time Tyler was bumbling through his 3rd weekly client status roundup call, on mute, Googling the difference between net terms and retainer fees, I was already drafting onboarding documents for the next 2 leads. The dam hadn't broken yet, but the pressure was building. And now, I was upstream, building my own flood. It started with a typo. Someone in marketing forwarded a PDF without double-checking the footer. It still had my name on it, client contact, Jessica M. Carver, along with my old firm email, now deactivated. The client, confused, replied to the thread asking for clarification. That's when the fire started licking at the walls. Instead of replying directly, the junior associate looped in Tyler. Tyler, already 3 zooms deep and out of his depth, tried to smooth it over with a copy-pasted response that might have worked if the client hadn't been Marlene Eckhart from Fairwood Capital, a woman known for gutting underperforming portfolio firms with a smile and a spreadsheet. Her reply, in all its crisp executive glory, simple: where is Jessica? Just 4 words, but they detonated like a flashbang in a cave. Within hours, the thread bloated into a 16-person chain with 6 different clients all chiming in, each with their own variation of the same question. She's our point of contact. We were told she'd be on this call. Why weren't we notified of her departure? Was this a restructure? Who approved this change? The firm's response: slower than molasses in a blizzard. Apparently, VP scrambled to organize a call with each client individually to control the fallout. But you can't plug 6 holes in a sinking ship when you're holding a PowerPoint and a thesaurus. One of the clients, Mason Fielding from Resolute Group, who'd been under contract with the firm for 4 years, sent a line that nearly made me drop my coffee. If Jessica is no longer affiliated, we will need to reconsider our engagement moving forward. There's too much institutional knowledge at risk here. Translation: they were ready to walk. That afternoon, I got a text from Janine in compliance. She doesn't gossip often, but when she does, it means blood is on the floor. Janine, girl, they are losing it. Janine, clients are openly talking about you on email chains. Someone said Tyler confused a client's daughter for their CFO. Janine, I'm watching this place implode with popcorn. I smiled. Just slightly. I didn't text back. I didn't gloat. This wasn't about revenge, it was about recognition. About letting the silence sharpen itself into a blade and hand it back to them. Instead, I opened my inbox, created a brand new email. Subject line: availability update JMC Group. Body: hi there. Just a brief note. I'm available for limited consulting hours this quarter. Existing contacts are welcome to reach out directly if support is needed. Thanks, Jessica. No hard sell, no resume link, no promises, just an open door. I blind copied a curated list of 14 names. No randoms, no noise. Just the people who knew what I was capable of because they'd lived it. I hit send. Took a sip of water. 20 minutes later, I had 6 meeting invites. All from people still under contract with my former firm. All politely labeled catch-up or exploratory. I didn't celebrate, didn't post a cryptic new chapter status on LinkedIn. Instead, I confirmed 3 of the invites, pushed the others to next week, and updated my spreadsheet. Meanwhile, the VP was still in damage control mode, setting up apology calls, crafting PR-safe emails, and pretending like this was all just a communication lapse. What he didn't know, and what Tyler hadn't learned, is that once a relationship cracks, there's no Excel formula that glues it back together. Not when trust walks out the door with a smile and doesn't look back. By Friday, the boardroom at the firm had turned into a triage tent. The VP, now visibly unraveling, was pacing hallways like a man trying to hold back floodwater with a broom. His secretary, usually glued to TikTok on her lunch break, was seen printing client briefs in a dead sprint, while whispering into her headset like she was negotiating a hostage release. Neen texted me a photo. A blurry snapshot through the glass. The VP with both hands on his head, the sleeves of his starched dress shirt rolled up, and a half-eaten protein bar melting beside a spilled coffee. Subject line, "Your absence is louder than his leadership." They were in full executive panic. The containment strategy came in the form of a hastily scheduled string of damage control calls. Every major client was offered a personal one-on-one with the VP. When appropriate, our new client success liaison, Tyler. God help them. I didn't have to be there to know how it went, but I got the highlight reel anyway. Apparently on the call with Eastmark Capital, a client known for legal precision and absolutely zero patience, Tyler stammered his way through an update on their compliance matrix and confused SOX exemption with stock exemption. "Wait," the client asked slowly, "you saying we're exempt from Sarbanes-Oxley reporting?" Tyler panicked, said yes. The silence that followed was so long, you could probably hear his blood pressure spiking. Eastmark's general counsel sent an email to the board that afternoon. My insider forwarded me a line from it. "I don't know who made the staffing decisions, but let me be perfectly clear, he's not her. Not even close. They weren't just bleeding, they were hemorrhaging credibility." While the VP tried to sell stability like it was still on the shelf, I was in my corner office at the WeWork, window seat, fresh coffee, 2 calls deep into onboarding another client. Contract number 2, done, Silverbrook Financial. I'd helped them pull through a PR crisis 2 years ago and built a referral web that tripled their reach. Now they were mine. Officially. Contract number 3, in final review. Boutique investment group I'd met at a conference in Vegas, the kind of client who appreciated competence more than college degrees. They'd reached out after hearing I was available again. My calendar was filling. My rates were firm. I wasn't undercutting or hustling. I didn't need to. I was offering something they couldn't replicate: continuity, clarity, and confidence. By the end of that week, I had more booked revenue than I made in an average month at the firm. I wasn't even done onboarding. There were no fireworks, no champagne, just a clean Google sheet, a steady hum of quiet satisfaction, and a growing awareness that everything the VP dismissed as soft skills had been the backbone of the company's client retention strategy. I wasn't vindictive. I wasn't smug. I was just done. They thought I was the wallpaper, the nice to have, the lady who remembered birthdays and smoothed over awkward silences. They didn't realize is that I was the insurance policy. And when I walked out, so did the safety net. The message came in through LinkedIn of all places. Not an email, not a text. A direct message from Richard M., board member since before the firm even had a CRM system, the kind of man who never responded to anything personally unless it involved litigation or mergers. His profile photo was a grayscale headshot with a faint watermark. Someone scanned it from a yearbook. It read, "Jessica, can we talk? Off the record. My cell is below." I stared at it for a long moment, then picked up my coffee, walked to the window, and took a slow sip. The skyline looked different now. Not distant, not aspirational, just open. Like a city I finally understood how to move through. I waited an hour before calling, not out of pettiness. Just to remind myself I was in no rush. He picked up on the first ring. "Oh, small talk." "Jessica," he said, voice gravelly like a man who hadn't slept right since Monday. "I'll be direct. What would it take to bring you back?" There it was. The moment most people would have fantasized about. The apology in a tailored suit. The rope ladder lowered after exile. 5 years ago, I might have considered it. Now, I smiled just enough for myself. "I think your VP's nephew is more qualified," I said, tone smooth as black ice. Did say he was the future. A beat of silence. I could almost hear the realization settle on his chest like wet cement. "I see," he said finally. "I'm sure you do." Then I hung up. No further pleasantries, no soft landing. Just the clean, sharp end of a conversation that never should have been necessary. By the end of that day, 3 different colleagues turned sources sent me variations of the same message. The boards rattled. They were holding unscheduled meetings, pulling performance metrics, poring over client churn data like detectives at a crime scene. But the real panic wasn't what they'd lost. It was what they couldn't name. Because the story was already out, Not on a press release, not in a newspaper, but in the whispers echoing down every hallway, the side chats on Teams, the coffee break murmurs between account managers wondering if their key clients would still be there next quarter. A boutique firm was forming. Small, agile, email-led, no corporate bloat, no empty suits, just results. And though I hadn't officially announced anything, the initials JMC were starting to make the rounds. I hadn't even built a website yet, didn't need one. Clients talked. And what they were saying, loud enough to reach the boardroom, wasn't about Harvard MBAs or reorganized workflows. It was about trust, presence, delivery. My name, once left off that smug, exciting New Faces memo, now echoed like a ghost in every executive call. The irony, I hadn't chased them. I hadn't posted a thing. I hadn't asked for attention. I just did the work. And now, the people who once called me just a people person were realizing that person had quietly taken the people with her. Monday morning broke like any other. Sunlight catching the edge of the skyline, city buses yawning down the avenue, espresso machines sputtering out their first froths of the week. Inside the firm's 24th floor boardroom, the air was thick with dread and deodorant. 4 major clients had declined renewal. Not delayed, declined. 2 of them, both multi-year contracts with 7-figure annuals, cited personnel instability in their exit notes. Another simply said they were reevaluating strategic partnerships, which was client speak for. We're done being polite. The numbers hit accounting first. Then the CFO, the valuation dashboard. Then the board. At 9:17 a.m., the VP was summoned. No invite, no heads up, just an assistant knocking on his glass office door mid-sentence and saying, "They need you. Now." According to Janine, who was now basically my private informant, he entered the boardroom with that same smirk he'd worn when he told me I had no pedigree. But it didn't last long. They didn't let him sit. Junior associate handed the chairman a manila folder. Inside, a printed PDF of my latest filings and client onboarding agreements. New boutique firm, clean branding, initials only. But clear as day, exclusive partnerships signed with 3 of the firm's legacy clients. Keystone, Silverbrook, Eastmark. The chairman slid the folder across the table to the VP like it was a final exam he hadn't studied for. "These just came through our legal risk scan," he said. "You've got 30 seconds to explain." The VP opened his mouth, stammered something about breach of non-competes and consulting gray zones. Something about me taking advantage of timing. The chairman held up a hand. "You lost the only person they trusted," he said, calm, measured, final. "You bragged about pedigree, and you forgot about relationships." No yelling, no drama, just that. Outside the boardroom, Daff watched the VP leave with his jaw locked and his future wobbling like a loose tooth. His nephew, Tyler, was conspicuously absent. Word was he'd started working remotely the previous Thursday and hadn't been heard from since. Back in my own office, small, clean, sunlit, I was reviewing Q2 projections. No fluff, just hard numbers. My inbox dinged, a text. "Janine, they're trying to undo it. Reverse the damage. Pull clients back. Reassign teams." Name it, I stared at the screen. Could almost picture them scrambling, dialing up clients who were already locked into new retainer schedules with me, offering discounts, promising overhauls, citing new leadership directions. Too late. I typed a response, just 5 words. Harvard should have taught them that. Then I put my phone down, leaned back in my chair, and let the silence fill the room. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like gravity. Everything falls. Eventually, you're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.